Hello everyone. Today I'm dealing with a loose toilet issue here. One of the bolts has seriously corroded that hold down the toilet. There's just a hole right there now. I took it right out. It just came right out. It is so rusted out. So I'm going to have to take the toilet off and replace the bolts and see how the flange is. And obviously put a new wax ring and maybe anything else that might be needed. Right now, I shut the water off. You just turn off the water over here in the valve. Make sure that it does turn off because sometimes those valves wear out. And then I get as much water as I can out. I'm using a sponge for now and I'm just draining into a bucket each time. So I'm going to get as much water as I can out of the toilet as well. And before I pull it out, so it's just less of a mess. Let me turn on the light here at least, get a little more. That way you can see the inside. Everything else seems to be okay. I don't have any flapper issues, but at this point, you might want to consider replacing all the guts. It's really not that expensive, and it's just something to think about, in your time. Get a whole kit. I may have to get a whole kit anyways, because once I remove it, the grommet that's between the tank and the toilet might be worn out, or I may end up messing it up anyways. Good thing, this is a spare toilet upstairs, and it's not like I really need it right away. All right. I got as much water as I can out of the drain toilet. Now the process of separating the tank from the bowl. You can see down there are three. In this case, it holds 3 bolts. Some toilets may just have 2. This one has 3. They could be rusted out. That might be a challenge if it is, because if it's rusted, then we got a problem because I'm going to have to probably cut it out. Anyways, I'm going to get a shot of that. And you can see it does look like it isn't too bad. I'm going to get my wrench or socket that'll fit that. And then I'll have to use a screwdriver to hold the bolts since there are flat heads. And with those 2, I should be able to loosen them up. If I'm lucky, all 3 will come loose, and I can separate the bowl and move that aside and before I remove the toilet. Well, lucky me. This was a little more stubborn, but I managed to loosen it. And the nuts are coming out. The other one is already loose, hand loose at that. So all I have to do is unscrew them. I'm very happy with that. I don't have to fight it. I don't have to cut it with a Sawzall. So just drop them. Don't worry about it. It's not going anywhere. So I got the 3 loose already. I should be able to just pull the tank out. Next, I have to take this off, of course. Usually it's hand tight. You might spill a little water on the floor. Just have a towel ready, it's not going to be much. If this thing is a problem, which I hope not, then, it should be okay. But if not, if it is a problem, the valve doesn't turn off completely, I might have to replace the valve assembly, and I hope I don't have to. That means I'd have to shut off the water completely just to do that. It's not a big operation, but it's doable. There. See? So that's where I'm at. Just as a note, this wrench came in handy for a tight spot. You just put it right up there and go to town. There's different sizes. You can purchase them up in your local hardware store. Goddamn flies bothering me. Anyways, I'm getting ready to pull the tank out now. All right, I'm gonna lift the toilet straight up, the tank. Now that the nuts are loose, should come straight up. Don't turn it or anything like that. You don't want to crack anything. You just lift it straight up. See? It is removed. And just set it down somewhere. I'll find a spot for it. Again, you don't want to drop the whole tank. You just want to be careful with it. It can actually stand on its own. So that's where I'm at right now. The toilet is next. Now, as I said earlier, there are 2 bolts and nuts that hold the toilet down. The other side was rusted badly, so obviously that is not an issue. I mean, it's no longer an issue now to remove because it's gone. This one, it's not a big deal. This one turned out to be a 7/16, and fortunately it's not rusted out. I can go ahead and remove it. You got the nut, washers, this piece here to hold the cap, and this is where I'm at. There should be, other than a washer, that should be it. At this point, I should be able to just pull the toilet straight up and out, and we'll see what kind of more fun adventures we have underneath. Now it's got a little weight, not super heavy. If it's too heavy for you, get some help, okay? I should be able to handle it. You just kind of gently pull it up and move it out of the way. Boom. Just like that, see? It's not a big deal. There. Okay, the toilet has been removed. Let me move my camera here. All right, this is what I'm dealing with here. We got some rust issues. I'm hoping that the flange isn't too bad. I hope I can pull it out. Might have to use an extension on it. So this is going to be a challenge. I'm going to clean it up. The last bolt is still here. It's nice and solid, but it should be able to be removed, I hope. I'm hoping it's not going to be too much of an operation. All right, this is where I'm at right now. I put a piece of paper towel in there just to prevent any crap from falling in there. The last thing I need to do is drop a bolt in there and say bye-bye. You see the bolts that hold the toilet, they just stand up. You put them in and you twist it, and that should be the case. This one might have a bit of a pain getting it out. I'll break it out if I have to. The other one rusted out, so that was not even an issue. And I cleaned it up so I can expose these 3 bolts that are ½ an inch. At least they can come out. I'm going to see if I can pull this flange out. If I can, I'm going to replace it. If not, I might have to reuse it. Even though it's nice and sturdy, I just don't like the way it looks. So hopefully I can take care of that. Well, I tried pulling the flange out. I took the 3 bolts that supposedly secure it, but it is solid in there. I'm assuming that the grout is holding it up. I'd have to chip all that out probably, and maybe it'll still come out because I'm not sure how the setup is in here. Flanges basically just drop in, and then you bolt it down. But in this case, it's actually, as ugly as it looks, there's nothing wrong with it. Here's one of the bolts, the other one that survived. You can see the type of head it uses. You know, just basically just drop it in. Once you get a new one, that is. And then you turn it. Well, you put it in there, and then you turn it like that, or it'll turn on its own and it'll lock in place. And as you tighten down the nuts, it locks the toilet down. I'll show that with the new hardware because obviously I'm not going to use this piece of crap. So I'm going to return the bolts to here. At least I got those out. Unless I do succeed in getting that out, which I seriously doubt, I'm going to proceed on preparing to get the stuff I need to replace the wax ring and then the guts for the toilet tank as well. I put the toilet downstairs on my deck, and so I can show you the wax ring and the corrosion around there. The wax ring, it's time to replace it. So obviously you need to replace it every time you pull the toilet out. I would highly recommend it. There are many kits that are better than what I see here, and I will show you when that time comes. I'm going to get ready to purchase what I need. As for the tank, I have this here, which looks in pretty good shape, but I think it's best to go ahead and replace it anyways because that's going to prevent water from leaking out of the tank. All that has to be sealed, obviously. So we'll get a whole new setup and see how that goes. I just got back from Home Depot, and these are the items I bought that I'll most likely use. You can see the universal kit for the toilet tank, all the parts that I need, the wax ring kit with bolts. And that's actually, I do recommend it. I use it on my mom's downstairs toilet, and it was just perfect. It works very well instead of just buying just the wax only. I got a flange kit, spacer, in case I need that. Maybe I can put that on top of the flange that exists. So we're going to see how that works out. And of course the bolt caps down there and some shims. I don't think I'm going to be shimming the toilet. There's been no need for that, but I might put some shims on the toilet, between the toilet tank and the toilet, just to keep it steady. But we'll see what I decide to do on that. I took the toilet to my yard, turn it upside down, so I can work on this wax, get this out. Basically, you just have to break it apart, and with a spatula preferably, you know, that should, little by little, it's pretty on pretty tight. Eventually, I'll work all this crap out of there, and we'll see what the final, oh, here we go. It's actually coming out pretty good. So, just to give you an idea, that's all you have to do, just keep on digging. And this is what the toilet looks like without the wax ring. As you can see, just a hole, that's all your poop comes through. So, not a big hole really, but surprisingly, it's effective. Here's the old wax ring. Yuck, boy. Into the garbage this will go. So, that's what you do. Alright, and back to my flange here. I basically cleaned it up. It's still usable. I wanted to use this ring to put on top of it as further for more security there. You know, just if we're going to add its strength. it sits on top, and unfortunately there's no way to bolt it down because the bolts here are totally different from that. So it's I must have an older style flange compared to this ring. I didn't see any rings at the Home Depot that would have that setup. So unfortunately, I cannot use this. I was kind of disappointed, but that's no big deal. I was kind of hoping that would have been the case. So I'm going to proceed to start putting on that wax ring. All right, this is the wax ring kit that's going to go on top of that first. You can see it comes with 2 bolts and some hardware to go with it. The bolts, as you can see, the shape of the head is made so you can just basically just slide it in, boom, and you're set. Now sure, they fit loose, but as you tighten it down, it'll tighten against the flange and it'll secure the toilet. So at this point, now before we add this, they say there's different rules. You notice there's a blue adapter here. If the toilet flange is flush with the floor, which it is, I do not need this according to the instructions. So adios with that. I started by putting my bolts in first. There's a plastic spacer. The only purpose of that is just to keep it nice and straight as possible, so when you put the toilet in, it's not wobbling around. So that's the first thing that goes on. All right, I have my toilet ready to put it in position. So basically I lift it up and I just drop it on those bolts and keep them as straight as possible, preferably. And it should be okay at this point. You just take your time and slowly line them up, both sides. There we go. There. Now at this point, I let the toilet do the work and it'll sink down as it expands the wax in that ring. So you can push it down a little more too if you want. But at this point, it should do the work. And it's going down, little by little. Might have to push it a little bit to encourage it a little more. It should be okay at this point. So now we're going to proceed to put on the nuts on the bolts. Okay, here's how you're going to secure the toilet. The bolt's already stuck through. You see it's a little loose. That's okay because we'll be tightening it down. I got my little kit here, my cap kit, have that ready. So I start with the washer, put that on, put this next because it has threads for the cap. This is supposed to be an anti-spin washer here, you put in there. And then you have your nut, which you'll bolt it down with this. I wonder if I should do it the other way, hold on. Nope, it's gonna have to be like this, I think. I'm gonna double check on that. Okay, I put this piece like that. The only reason I did that because the nut would have been too low for me to put a wrench on it. So it has to go like that when you put it on. And then of course the anti-rotation washer. Then finally put the nut down and secure it down. Make it nice and snug so you have no more rocking. I'm gonna go do the same on the other side. Okay, a wrench to do the job. So 7/16 by the way for this one. I think, I'm assuming they're all standard 7/16 nut. So put it nice and snug. See, this toilet is not moving for nothing. All right, so you don't want to put it super cranked, no, just nice and snug because I don't know if you put it too tight, if it could actually crack this or not. I wouldn't want to take that chance. So as soon as you know you can't move it, then that's good enough right there. Now I'm going to eventually have to cut the leftover bolts down fairly flush before I can put the cap on. So I'll be needing my Sawzall for that. Before I continue on, now that I secured the toilet, I'm going to have to deal with this valve because while the water was on, it was kind of dripping out. Even though I shut this off, I still have a leak. And it's been known to happen, these valves, after so much time, they just turn to crap. So I did buy a new one. I have to install that in. And I just want to deal with that issue first before I continue the rest of the toilet. All right, got a brand new valve in place. It's not much to do. I thought about making a video how to do it, but that could be another time. So I just want to install it. Here's the old one, and I still have the hose to it, which I got to disconnect. But this one, unfortunately, it was good until I turned it off. Then it started leaking. No matter how tight I was able to make it, it still drip, and I was not having that. So the water is already on, and there is not a drop coming out. So we may now continue the work on the toilet. All right, back outside now with the tank. I'm going to proceed to take this big old nut off after I take the grommet off and this nut. Channel locks will do a good job on that to remove them. If not, get a big old wrench or something, but because that's a big nut. So once you get those two off, basically I'll be pulling all the guts out, minus the handle. This just comes off. This is being more of a pain in the ass to remove. I'm going to have to cut the grommet out probably because I'm having just stubbornly. There we go. So it comes off little by little. The bolts are holding in place. I'll just get some scissors and cut it off. All right, I finally got everything out. This is your toilet bowl tank without all the guts. So I got my kit open, and it will make allowances for those that have 3 holes, the bolts that hold down the toilet tank to the toilet. So I can deal with that. I have extra washers for that, which is good because I was concerned about that. So I'm going to start putting all the parts together now. I'm going to first put the bolts in that will hold the tank to the toilet. You can see I put a washer, a rubber washer first, and that's what's going to go in first. Then I'll put the rest of the hardware on the other side to secure that bolt. So basically that's what we're looking at. And according to the instructions, you put this, the metal first, metal washer to the bolt and the nut. This will secure the nut and the bolts in place. You do that for all 3 holes basically. All right, you can see that's the first one there. It's nice and secured. The grommet, the rubber grommet is on the other side to prevent any leaking. So we don't want to deal with that. And just give it a shot of the inside too, just to show you. I will do the other 3 now. All 3 bolts are ready for when the toilet is installed. Now I'm going to put the rest of the guts in. This part is the flapper and drain for the center of the toilet that will go in. You can see the little flapper. That's what pulls up when you pull the chain. So I'm going to install that. It's fairly easy. Basically, you take that nut off, put the whole unit in, tighten the nut, and then you put this on top of that. This will prevent leaking. Anyways, I put it on. Got the nut nice and secure. Only thing now is we put this on top and you work it around the nut. So that's gonna see, just that easy. It's real simple. And your drain mechanism is ready. Just show you the other side. As you can see, I like to position the pipe on this side so it's not in the way of the valve when I install that. This is the float and valve mechanism. That's going to go into the little hole over here. So you're going to put this washer, rubber washer in first, put the whole unit in there, and then put this nut on and tighten it down. Not super tight because it's plastic, but tight enough and it will secure it. All right, so we have secured everything. It's nice and snug. The rubber washers in the inside first on the pipe before I put the pipe through and then tighten with the nut. These are secure. This is secure. The flapper will keep the water from draining. At this point, you might want to test it and see if there's any leaks by putting some water in there and just see if anything's coming out. Most likely it will not, but it will be a good way to know right now before you put the tank on the toilet. All right, I finally got all the parts in. I put some water in here to check for leaks. It really ticked me off earlier because on the center where the big nut is at, I kept leaking. No matter how, I don't want to make it too tight, but the gasket that came with it was a piece of garbage as far as I'm concerned. It didn't do a great job. It was leaking a little bit. So I took an old part of the gasket from the old piece over there and installed it as well. Now I don't have a drop coming out. So the bolts don't leak. The pump, or should I say the water inlet doesn't leak, and the center part doesn't leak. That way, see, the water just stays there. That's what I want. I don't want no leaks. Now I go ahead and prepare to put the tank in. All right, I have the tank now. Now I have to do is secure it with the nuts that are given to me, which I'll be doing from below. And there are three bolts. So 3 nuts will be needed to secure the whole thing. And if I have this big old grommet too in the middle, the red one you can see, that might cause it a little bit of wobbling. I was going to put some shims just to prevent that, because I don't want to get super tight. I don't want to crack anything. All right, I got the tank secured. And all that's left is to put the water hook up to that. Basically, just you line it up as best as you can, and you just basically twist it on until you start getting the threads, and then you work your way and make it snug. Usually hand tight is good enough, but I'm going to test it anyways and see, make sure there's no surprises. There, that's nice and snug because it was hand tight to begin with. So we're going to give it a test run here. All right, I turned on the valve. Water is now coming through that little hose and pouring into the tank. As I checked earlier, there shouldn't be any leaks. There should be no leaks here neither. Once I put that on, everything's nice and dry. That's what we want. Oh, damn, I forgot my wrench. Stupid of me. Anyway, so we'll give it a good test flush when it fills up to where it's supposed to go. All right, that's as far as it filled. I could fix it so I can fill it higher, but I'm going to stop with that for now, just to show that it turned off. The valve did its job. The float came up and turned it off like it's supposed to. So let us do our first flush. There it goes. It flushed well. And we just show that the gasket did its job underneath the toilet and is nice lined up. And we're refilling again. So next thing I have to do is basically clean up the mess that I made over here. And this has been quite the adventure. Then I will reinstall the seat back to its former glory so they can test it with its first dump. Hope you like this video. Almost forgot. Still got to cut up those bolts if I'm going to put the caps on. The caps help to prevent that rust problem that we had before. So I got my Sawzall and I shall go to town with it. All right, cut the bolts. Now I just put the caps on and just screw them down. Voila, piece of cake. Same thing with the other side. Done. Now they're protected from hopefully moisture in the future. All right, everything is put back together. Seats on, tank top is on, everything's secured, nice and solid. It's all set, nice and sturdy. It'll hold the most corpulent fellow there is, without any issues. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Give me likes, that'd be cool. Not that I'm making any money, but I just do it just for a hobby. So good luck if you decide to take on this adventure.